Hello, and I am back here on the channel. I am on a bit of a roll as of late because I've been getting some good rest. And after coming off of a live stream, which I did, I am a tad bit tired, but I wanted to do my review for Captive State yesterday night. Didn't happen. I watch a lot of different things on YouTube, and I actually had a chance to jump into a live stream with a bunch of great people. And if you're watching, thank you for having me, and also thank you for being the great community that you are and helping the little man out. My subs jumped up recently. I appreciate all of these channels and the way that they help the little guy out. I think that the community is just great, and I like the fact that I got to talk with a lot of people that are like-minded and awesome. So thank you, Mary. If you haven't, go check out her channel. She is awesome, very funny, does a lot of good different content, and it's good to see the female perspective. And I like the way that she puts things as far as the different situations that's been going on and the different things that's been happening with making the males of these reviews and things like that look terrible, and to have females that come out and say positive things about male counterparts. It's nice and refreshing. So thank you if you're watching. I really appreciate that. Anyways, I want to talk about a movie, and as always, I do my reviews live because if anyone has questions about the film, I like to be able to answer them to the best of my ability, and I saw the new movie Captive State. Now, this is an interesting film because it was terribly marketed and not very many people know about it. Does not surprise me with the push for Captain Marvel that a lot of films were going to fall underneath the radar. 5 Feet Apart fell underneath the radar, and in my mind right now, it's one of the best movies that came out this week in the box office, honestly. And when I saw Captive State, I did go and read reviews from the most unbiased, fair site in the world, the greatest aggregator, Rotten Tomato. Love them, and they're really just review system that they have. I mean, these guys have never changed their website for any reason. I mean, they are the epitome of integrity. So I get all of my great facts and information. Let me stop. No, they are a horrible site. So now what I do is I work the site in reverse, and I tend to see movies that the critics hate and that the audience loves. And typically, I don't tend to agree with critics. This is a rare instance when, unfortunately, the critics line up a lot with how I felt about this film. Now, the premise of the film is kind of very generic as far as sci-fi genre goes. It is the stereotypical alien invasion. Oh, hello. It is the stereotypical alien invasion movie. Nothing groundbreaking like an Independence Day, nothing new like District 9 or anything like that. And here's where the film gets odd, because it by definition has the systems that I have, and I feel like it's very subjective to how people are going to feel about this movie. The first thing I'm going to do is let you know how I break things down. Then we're going to go through it. I'm not going to spoil anything because I do non-spoiler reviews. And then I'm going to tell you my thoughts and whether or not you should see this film in theaters. So I'm going to do the overall view, the pros, the cons, and then I'm going to let you guys know whether or not to see the film. So the pros and the cons, I sometimes do in reverse, but I think I'm going to go in order. Now, overall view. This movie is about a group of aliens that come, and we're led into the backdrop of Chicago. This family is trying to get out, and as they're about to leave, you see the government's got this particular district of Chicago on lockdown. The family's trying to get out. The dad is a detective. They give you bits and pieces here and there. He's driving out of the city, and they get the father and the mother wind up dying, and the two kids are left. Now we fast forward. The kids are grown. The older brother leads a failed kind of like a terrorist attack against this alien group, and the weird and interesting part is that the humans have accepted the aliens. The aliens, for all intents purposes, have made this kind of like a utopia world where there is no violence. Everybody is unified. They have a gathering called the unification ceremony, and they're under the umbrella of everything is sunny and great, and this is a peaceful world to live in. And it goes into a weird upper class mingle with the aliens, yada, yada, yada. The people of Chicago and these cities and these different districts are sectioned off from the whole, and they kind of live as the people who are doing these odd jobs, and their conditions aren't that great. Now, it's weird because I feel like this is a political statement and not really, and you guys know how I feel about politics in my movies, although this has been marketed as such. Although sci-fi is a weird genre because sci-fi has always been a statement and messaging against the time, and I can deal with politics tastefully done. And they don't really make one side or the other that bad. It's more of the how do I even put it into words? The poor district, when things start happening and this group rises up, they're looked at as the terrorist, and we see from their eyes they are trying to liberate where they are and get these creatures out. And we see that from the elitist side, they've kind of folded. Government has folded and given in to the aliens. Now, both tales are not really unreasonable in the realm of science fiction. So I can buy where the politics are coming. And now I'm going to jump straight into my pros. John Goodman is in this movie, and John Goodman is one of my favorite actors in these types of films that are kind of small budgeted, not really big. He's a great actor, and he puts in work. He works for an agency that hunts down and tracks these cells within different districts, and he's in charge of the Chicago district. And John Goodman plays it very good because it does go where you think it's going to go, but he plays it so well where you're not sure because the character has a good depth to it. And John Goodman has a thing about him as a person where he can switch from angry, from almost a villain kind of character to relatable and likable, and you kind of understand his motives. He's just that kind of an actor. Now, this is playing off of the very new thing going around in Hollywood where African-American representation has to be in a movie because they've been getting backlash, and so they're putting out all of these films. But I gotta say, the African-American representation in this film is actually very good. I wish I knew the actors' names, but I don't look up everyone, especially for these films, unless it's major films or I was really moved by it. We'll get to that part. So the two people who are brothers also are very good in this film. Now, that being said, I think the biggest strength of this movie is that sometimes it can feel like it's lagging, but it's because it doesn't give the audience everything right away. It's actually very disjointed in its narrative and its delivery of where it's trying to go. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. The problem with people going to movies, unlike when I was a kid, was that they want everything handed to them right away. And this mentality has made for terrible movies because then you've got narratives where they're giving you everything and there's no mystery. So I was intrigued all the way throughout this film, trying to figure out who was good, who was bad, what was the overall plot, and even midway through the movie where this plan happens, it fails, and you're like, okay, so what is the point of everything that preceded itself? And the ending tied it nicely together. The end of the movie truly was the highlight of the movie because and it wasn't even just like the last 20 minutes. It was a good last half hour or so of the movie where you finally start to get the pieces fitting where they go to bring you to the conclusion of the film. And in all senses of the word, it's not a high action kind of ending. It's a story driven ending. There is action scenes, but it's very narrative based into getting you from point A to point B. So that aspect of the film was very good, very refreshing. It didn't treat me like an idiot. It sort of gave me bits and pieces and let my imagination run through to what the ending was going to be. And then when I got there, it was a satisfying ending. Now, my cons. The cons of this film is it lags very, very much so at about I want to say the 30-minute in mark. You have to pay attention. And the problem without moving action and the problem with heavy dialogue films is there's got to be more than just one charismatic presence carrying the dialogue for you to be enthralled. The master and the person who does this the best is Quentin Tarantino. He has a way of having witty, snappy dialogue that keeps you engaged in the character. So even if he makes a film like Reservoir Dogs or Kill Bill and things like that, when Kill Bill had those scenes in between that ridiculous violence, when they had the talking scenes, the dialogue was very like on cue, on its game. Jackie Brown was another dialogue heavy film that had very little action. Hateful Eight was the same way, but the characters and what they say keep you invested through the entirety of the film. The problem is John Goodman doesn't have a lot of people to bounce some pretty compelling dialogue. The characters that were the resistance in this film were not fleshed out as well as I would like. I'm not saying you got to give me all of the detail on them, which is revealed towards the end of the movie, but I would like to know why they felt more threatened than most people did. And you'll see at the end that they're very much interconnected. And the story doesn't tell you why this core group got together in the first place, really, and why this cause was so important. And the crux of the movie is lighting a fire for this resistance. So the core group not being fleshed out actually harms the movie because you don't understand the motives of why they want to change a utopian future. Also, a con is the aliens are cool, but there's not enough of them. We don't see the higher power that's in charge. And I get it, it's for effect. You use your imagination what this higher being is. But I still would have liked to have an indication. The foot soldiers were awesome, and there's only really about 2 alien types, which with the special effects that were in this movie, they were pretty actually creatively done, and I would have liked to see more creature design to really sell this film. The other con that this has is that while the acting is pretty good, it's standard across the board for certain characters, and it's a hard sell. And I hate shaky cam. That was another thing. Shaky cam, I don't like shaky cam unless it's a first-person movie. Then I understand it because you're seeing it as the person's taping it, and when the camera moves, that's them running. I buy that. What I hate is what they call, it's a standard shot film, but they shake the camera for intensity of a certain scene. I hate it. I get more sick watching it than I do actually enjoy what they're trying to do. And there's different pans and zooms and spin arounds you can do with the camera to make things more dramatic than just shaking the camera about when someone's running as an effect. It doesn't work very well. And there's a lot of places in the movie when the younger cast is running from like the cops and they do that whole shaking behind them kind of thing, and it just bugs me. It takes me out of the film. So camera angles, there were some poor choices. Now, overall, do I think this is a good movie? Do I think you should see it? That I had to take a full day to adjust and go through in my mind and piece together the events of the film. And at first, I didn't know if I really disliked this movie. I think the criticism towards it was really harsh because the political view at the end was very in the middle, which I appreciated, in saying that both sides were not necessarily right, not necessarily wrong. And it had this was a battle for freedom amongst humans and not this grand political statement that you think it's going to be. So that was nice. But the ending felt like the beginning, and that's a dangerous concept because you don't know if you're going to get a sequel. And the way that things led up to the end events were tedious and monotonous in between, with nothing really carrying the weight of the story. So you have a weird situation where the end is actually really good, the beginning is really good, but the middle parts, they could have done things to spice it up, had more alien screen time, went into the aliens more, because you still don't really know what they are and what their overall general goal is. They weren't there to conquer. It seems like they came to unify. So I'm still really confused about the motivation of the alien creatures. And it feels like a long movie, and it's only about an hour or something, and that's bad because it's pacing issues. So overall, do I think this is worth you spending $10.50? Unfortunately, I'd have to say no. I would have to agree with critics on this one. It is not compelling enough to where it's a must-see. It's not an Independence Day, and I hold my alien invasion movies to like Independence Day standards. That movie was a grand example of witty, snappy dialogue, good moving action, good storytelling, things like that. District 9, I love. There was political views in there, but they fit with the movie and making this really weird camera film that also told a good story. I mean, it was good. It was very well done. But this falls into those groups where, like, it's okay. The ending is really worth the payoff, but once you see it, you're not going to watch it again. It's like a one-watch movie. And for that, spending $10.50, I personally think that it's a waste. You really shouldn't spend $10.50. Now, $5 Tuesday, if you're just going for $5, it's not bad. I mean, if you've already seen the movies that are out, it's a good popcorn flick. It's got a good delivery at the ending. But spending that much money for a night show, it's a stretch. It's really hard to sell. I think this is a better movie that would have done better on like a platform like Netflix, where you can do other things or you can pause it and go do something else. Really, this falls in that Netflix realm where it would have highly benefited from being a Netflix original as opposed to being a full blockbuster film. And John Goodman is kind of wasted in this role along with the other co-stars that he has because of the fact they didn't flesh out the world or the people around him. So anyways, it's not a complete disappointment to me. Didn't make me angry, just kind of made me wondering more and not having enough questions answered than when I first came into the film. I was more confused than I was given the right material to put everything together, and I got the gist, I got the crux. I even got that this could, if it does decent enough, get a sequel, and I gather the budget wasn't that much for the effects that were in the film. But all in all, if you're bored and it's a $2 or $5 Tuesday, then go and see it. The worst that happens is you wasted $5, but I honestly don't think people will think that it's a waste of time. If you're spending the big dollars, I'd say go see 5 Feet Apart before this. So anyways, that's my review. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you like the channel, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button. ring the buzzard so you know when I do these live movie review streams. And I appreciate all the support. Thank you, 81 subs. Thank you for everyone who's been watching the channel and my content. And as always, even as I speak now, I'm getting ready to go into it. The theater, me and Goose the Cat will see you there.